So they say leaders are good followers. And once they are good leaders, they will keep following. So let's see how much of good leaders you are. Let's see if you can follow. So let's start with a song. This little light of mine, just so. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine all the time. Ole ale koe kai kuma au pe wharo le wharoroa, le whiora ua whioma le tamatai, le taitai o tātua tonu, tamatai wale mea, ia me se foi le maro ka peneta. Ia whaururunga o matanga wenga taitasi, ia me se foi le mamaro tātou walaodia, ko yes, ia. I was singing that song, hopefully it's going to take up majority of my time. Because as I got here today, I was one of the first people here, and I came here early because I wanted to feel the vibe first. I wanted to listen into the other speakers. And usually this is what I do with mental health. By the way, one of the things they didn't show up here is that where we are actually located. So if you walk through the outpatient, you turn right, there's a dental department, and on the left-hand side, that's the mental health unit. Now it's a little bit difficult to find because it's a little bit separated from the majority of the hospital. But if you're lost anywhere in the hospital, you just ask them, please show you where the most hardworking people work in the hospital. And then they'll say, oh, yeah, sure, George, mental health. So when I was asked to talk about management of stress, I realized that the topic is such a big topic. So I did a little survey. I called around some heads of ministries and some leaders, people who I consider leaders, and I asked them, if you were stressed, can you name 3 things that you do to manage it? To my surprise, these leaders that I asked these are their top answers. They said, oh, I leave my work, I spend time with my family, I do some relaxation techniques. I was like, oh, really? What type of relaxation techniques? They say, oh, I do a breathing exercise, And some of them, they actually say they go on a vacation. They leave their work, they do something productive. Some of them say they like to plant. Some of them also, they said, they like to exercise. And I was really surprised. I was like, man, these people are well aware into their mental well-being and their mental wellness, which makes it even more difficult for me to find out something to talk about today. However, as I was listening to the Prime Minister and also a speaker from PSP, I was inspired with some of the points that they had. So I thought, there you go, I'm going to emphasize 2 points that they say and finish off with 1 point of my own. First point, Prime Minister mentioned self-awareness. You see, when you're dealing with stress, you already know the techniques. You already know the methods. The problem is the methods and those techniques that you know are only dealing with the symptoms, are only dealing with the signs. So I'm hoping that the perspective I'm going to give you tonight is actually going to go a little bit deeper than that. More than dealing with the symptom, more than dealing with the sign, but actually understanding the cause, understanding the root cause, and understanding the origin of management of stress. First point, self-awareness. You cannot deal with any sort of stress unless you know who you are. Who are you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? Do you have any strengths? Do you have any weaknesses? In mental health, we call that mindfulness, self-awareness. In order for you to understand how to deal with your problem, you need to understand who you are first. Second thing you need to understand what the issue is. You need to understand what that problem is. So you keep questioning, what is this problem? Why does it keep coming up? If I'm trying to solve it, Why is it still there? And if you can't solve it, it's because of two things. Either you don't understand yourself and you don't understand the issue. A rich man took his friends to his cruise boat. He hired out the whole cruise boat and he took all his friends. Little did he know that one of his friends actually doesn't know how to swim. One of his friends is actually fear being on a boat and being on a sea. And this rich man wished he knew that a little bit earlier, because this was like only 4 days already from the trip. So this is 4 days, and the rich man came in, and this friend was just crying. He was like, no, I don't want to go in the sea, you know. So this friend was causing a havoc on the boat. And the rich man was saying, we can't turn the boat around. This is a month's cruise. We're not going to waste this time just to turn the boat around to drop this guy off. So he asked everyone, he said, can someone please help this guy deal with the stress? One person came in and he said, you know, on a cruise boat, there's a nightclub. Let's go have a drink. And the guy said, no, it's not going to work. One man came in and he said, there's a golf course. Why don't we go play golf? They tried, still didn't work. Another guy came in and he said, okay, sit down, let's do some breathing exercise. So they started doing breathing and it's like, no, this guy was still crying. He wanted to go back home. He feared that the boat was going to sink. He feared being saved. So the rich man then decided, okay, we're going to turn the boat around. And then right before they turned it around, one man came up to the rich man and he said, please, can I try? And the rich man said, how can you try if everyone else failed? They tried all the methods. He said, look, there's this one method that I know, but you need to promise me something. You will not question it. You will not ask how I'm going to do it, what I'm going to do it. You will just follow and allow me to take over. And the rich man said, you're not going to kill the guy, are you? And he said, no, we're not going to kill the guy. I said, oh yeah, go for your life. So this guy came up to the guy and he said to the workers, to the sailors, get some ropes. Tie it around him. So they tied him. They tied the ropes around him. He said, just enough to hold him up, but not enough to squeeze him to death. So as they tied the rope around, this guy said, now throw him overboard. So they threw him overboard. And this guy doesn't know how to swim, so he was flapping there trying to swim. And as he was going down, sinking down, maybe 3 or 4 seconds down, they pulled him up the boat. They put him up the boat. 2 or 3 minutes later, as he dried up, the guy looked at him and said, throw him back again. So they keep throwing him off the boat and repeating this cycle about 2 or 3 times. And then on the 3rd time, as they pulled him back up, the guy looked at him and he said, okay, now let him have a bath and let him rest. When the rich man came to check, to his surprise, this man that feared the sea was just sitting there, drinking his coffee and enjoying the TV. And he looked to the man and he said, how did you know that was going to work? And he said, the reason why I knew it was going to work was for him only to realize it's actually better to be on a boat than on the sea. You see, he helped him deal with his fear. He helped him deal with his stress. Where are you now? Do you understand where you are now as a leader? You are now here as a leader because you are a blessing. And any other stress that comes in any form, you would rather be this blessing like this guy that has now realized that being on a boat is more than a blessing than actually being in the sea. So that's the first point, is understanding that you are a blessing, and whatever issues that come along your way, you would rather, you can deal with it because you can deal with any issue, because this position that you're in now as a leader is a blessing. Second point, now that you know you are a blessing, what makes your team? What does that make other people? Your staff, your workers, your family, your competitors? What does that make them? So you are now a blessing. Second story, a farmer in Texas, well known in the States for growing the best crops. The news got to New York and the journalists were very curious because it was 3 to 4 years that this man keeps on winning. So the journalist came over and asked this man and said, he looked in his stall and he said there were 2 types of seeds. There was a grade A seed and a grade B seed. Obviously the grade A is the best and the grade B is the second best. And he said to the farmer, the grade A seeds must be the expensive ones, huh? And the B is the second expensive ones. And the farmer said, no, The grade A seeds is the one I give for free. The grade B seeds is the one that I sell. So the journalist said, why would you want to give away the grade A seeds for free? And he said, because I give it to my neighbors. I give it to the other farmers. He said, why would you want to give it to them? Aren't you competing with them? Aren't you trying to get the best crops? Why are you giving your best seeds to your neighbors? And the farmer looked at him and he said, yeah, you have little knowledge into farming. You see, my friend, in order for me to grow the best crops, I need proper pollination from birds, from the wind, from insects. And in order to get that good seed and a good crop, all the other crops that are growing around me has to grow well as well. Now that you are blessed as a leader, the responsibility is that you need to ensure that others around you are blessed. You make sure that you are blessed and you make sure that others are blessed around you. The stress levels goes down. Third point. So now that you know you are a blessing, now that you know your responsibility is to bless others, the question is, how do you maintain that blessing? How are you going to keep maintaining and making sure that you will always be blessed and others will be blessed? Final story, I promise. This one now is my son. So every time I pick him up from school, some days I see him very tired. You know, I see him coming into the car and I said, okay son, go home. We do a little fair. I said, no, I'm so tired. I was like, okay, have something to eat. No, I'm so tired. Almost most of the days of the school, that's what he does. But every day that I tell him that, okay, it's 5:30, I'm going to my boot camp with the One Touch Ministry. You should look and see the looks in his eyes. His eyes just blow up. All that tiredness, all that weakness from school, they just went out the window. And here I am when I take him and he says, no, I'll just go there and hang around with the other kids and you do your boot camp, your training. Here I am doing my training and then I look at him. He's just playing hardcore rugby. I was like, how did he get that much energy? And a very similar thing with my workers too. You know, working in close to the sea in the hot sun. If I don't, most of my workers, they don't feel like working anymore after 2 o'clock. So by 2 or 3 o'clock, I bring them back and take them to the residence in my other farm here in Falangin. And I swear by the time we get there, our neighbor, which is a Whaiwheau, there's a volleyball that always happens at about 5 or 6 o'clock. Here they are, barely walking to the car to come. And after you see them drop them off, and then they go and play that sport, you see them play with so much energy. And then I ask myself, how is it that they do that? The answer is that they do it because they enjoy it. They do it because it's their form of entertainment. You as a leader need to enjoy where you are and what you are doing. You need to enjoy that blessing. You need to enjoy that job. In order for you to be less stressed, you need to find that enjoyment in your job and in that calling that you have as a leader. And seeing them playing, I keep asking. I ask more. It's like, why is it that he enjoys it then? And the reason why my son enjoys it, and the reason why these guys enjoy it, I try and find out the actual cause of why people enjoy doing that, despite the fact that they are physically tired, despite the fact that they are physically exhausted. And looking deep and deeper into it, I realize it comes from the purity of your heart. It comes from the cleanliness of their hearts, to show it through their enjoyment, to show it during this time that they are stressed. That purity continues to overcome whatever stress and strain that they have. And I realize then that that is the answer of how you can maintain your blessing, of how you can maintain to be blessed, a blessing to others, is ensuring that your heart is clean, ensuring that your heart is pure. Now ask yourselves now as a leader, is your heart pure? Is your heart clean? The answer to that, you will have to invite me to the second leadership summit. I'm not gonna tell you everything today. No. I keep asking myself that question too. How do I keep my heart clean? How do I keep my heart pure? The answer is very simple. The answer is in no other book than in the Bible itself. So after tonight, you go home, you look up Proverbs 4, verse 23, and you start with that verse. Start with that verse and reading on how to keep your heart clean and keep your heart pure. And then after that, if you want to learn some more, you come and ask anyone in the hospital. We're the most courageous people work in the hospital, and then they'll point you, and then come to us and see us for help and talk more about this leadership. So again, let me summarize. First, self-awareness. Understanding and knowing where you are. Where you are now, you are a leader, you are a blessing. Whether it's a calling, whether it's a selection, whether it's an election, anything. Being a leader is a blessing. Understanding that you are a blessing, you will know then how to deal with any stress. Because you will realize that you are more blessed to be on a boat than to be actually off the boat. If you don't realize that yet, then maybe you should throw yourself off the boat. Second, because you are a blessing, it is a responsibility. A blessing is a God-given gift. You cannot hold on to that blessing yourself and enjoy it just with you and your family. You cannot enjoy the riches or blessing of a leader. You need to ensure that everyone around you, everyone that's around you, is also blessed. And that is the burden and responsibility of being a blessing. And how do you maintain that blessing? You maintain that blessing by keeping your heart pure, keeping your heart clean. Find enjoyment in that. And trust me, whatever stress that comes along your way, you will be able to manage. Thank you.